Contact Changes Everything by Jason Gray. February 1st, 2026, 6026, Anno Lucis, in the year of light. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Truth is effortless in isolation. In silence, it arranges itself beautifully. It feels coherent, aligned, even luminous. When you are alone, nothing contradicts you. Nothing resists you. Nothing asks anything of you. Alone, clarity behaves. Truth was never meant to remain untouched. Truth only becomes real when it enters contact. The moment another human enters the field, the conditions change. A second nervous system appears, a second history, a second set of expectations, fears, reflexes, desires. Suddenly, what felt solid inside you is no longer theoretical. It must now exist between bodies. This is where most truths collapse, not because they are false, but because they were never embodied. They lived safely in thought, safely in intention, safely in private resolve. Contact does not care what you believe internally. Contact asks only one question. Can your truth remain intact when another person reacts? The instant you are seen, something ancient wakes up. Your body registers risk before your mind can narrate it. You feel it immediately, a tightening in the chest, a holding of breath, a subtle leaning forward, a reflex to soften, explain, preempt, adjust. This is not indecision. This is conditioning, surfacing. Conditioning does not show itself in solitude. It requires friction. It requires another person's presence to activate. That is why self-awareness alone is never enough. You can understand yourself deeply and still abandon yourself reflexively the moment someone else is involved. Here's the truth most people never see. You do not abandon yourself because you lack courage. You abandon yourself because your nervous system learned that connection required disappearance. At some point, early, quietly, repeatedly, you learned harmony was safer than honesty. Acceptance was more valuable than precision, and being liked was more important than being real. Your system learned to scan constantly for tone, for mood, for danger, for withdrawal. It learned to adjust you to maintain connection. This adjustment happens so fast it feels like personality. It is not personality, it is protection. Contact reveals the difference between truth you value and truth you practice. Truth you value feels good inside you. Truth you practice survives interaction. Truth you value dissolves when tension arises. Truth you practice stays present without becoming aggressive or apologetic. This is not about confrontation. It is about presence, without self-erasure. Most people think honesty means saying everything. It does not. Embodied truth is often quieter than that. It is slower, more measured, less dramatic. It does not rush to be understood. It does not defend itself. It does not over-explain to secure safety. Embodied truth allows misunderstanding to exist without collapsing. That is the difference. Watch what happens in you during contact. Watch the micro movements when you soften a sentence before it is needed, when you agree prematurely, when you suppress a no to preserve ease, when your body knows something is off, but your mouth overrides it. None of this is failure. It is data. Contact is not exposing your weakness. It is revealing your training. Most people do not lose themselves in crisis. They lose themselves in conversation, in tone management, in emotional labor, in anticipation of reaction, in subtle editing. They leave their body to maintain harmony. They leave the present moment to protect the future. They leave truth to preserve identity. They do it automatically, Awareness begins when this becomes visible. Precision is the new integrity, not bluntness, not performance, not moral superiority. Precision. Precision sounds like, this does not feel aligned for me. I need to pause before responding. I am not available for that. Something in me is not a yes. No justification, no apology, no story, just contact with self maintained in relationship. This is where fear intensifies, because precision removes the camouflage. You can no longer hide behind tone. You can no longer outsource responsibility to explanation. You can no longer disappear into politeness. You are simply there. Being there changes everything. Some people adjust. Some withdraw. Some resist. Some reveal themselves. You do not control which happens. And that is the point. Contact is not about outcome management. It is about self-contact under relational pressure. Can you remain with your body when someone disagrees? Can you remain grounded when someone is disappointed? Can you remain honest when connection feels threatened? This is not a skill. It is a capacity, and capacity grows only through contact. You are not asked to confront anyone today. You are asked to observe yourself in proximity. Notice where your breath changes. Notice where your body tightens, where your impulse to manage is to manage rather than remain. This is not about correcting yourself. It is about staying in your body, staying in the moment, staying present without disappearance. This is where truth lives now, not as an idea, not as a belief, but as a felt continuity of self across contact. If you can do one thing today, let it be this. Do not abandon yourself in order to keep the room comfortable. Let the room adjust. Let silence exist. Let reaction occur. Let truth stand without armor. That is embodiment. Once embodiment begins, there is no return to abstraction. Notice who you become when another person is present. That is where truth demands embodiment. This is not a lesson. It is a crossing. Once crossed, every relationship becomes a mirror you can no longer unsee. Jason Gray. I've really been feeling the lessons in that piece lately, which is why I chose to read it today. As a child, I was definitely taught, or I realized young, I guess, that creating harmony in experiences and situations was less painful than other options. And so in many situations, I did learn to erase myself and be a people pleaser and to not speak up and to not speak up for myself and what I wanted, to not defend myself, those sorts of things. And I did that for most of my life until things changed. And I suppose it happened slowly, but I really do think that the linchpin for that change really was quitting drinking alcohol, because there was something in me prior to that that felt unworthy and that didn't feel good enough to defend myself or to stick up for what I needed. So I think that that's a beautiful consequence of quitting drinking. And I really like Jason's explanation in that writing about it being precision, that we're being precise in our actions when we can behave in a way that doesn't dishonor ourselves and what we want and what we need. just this morning, I was having a conversation with my daughter. Yesterday, she brought one of her favorite dolls to school. Her doll is named Fleur de la Cour. And all the other girls about her age just loved the doll and wanted to touch the doll. And it really ended up bothering my daughter because she didn't want all of them to touch the doll. And some of them like messed the hair up, and she didn't like that. And she was upset about it. And so, I've talked with her last night and this morning about the situation, and I said, I really think the way to handle it is if you don't want some of the girls to touch the doll, then just don't let anyone touch the doll, because if you let some of them, then all of them are going to want to, and you can't really say, well, you can, but not you. And so I got her to the point where she was really thinking, okay, I need to say this, that I don't want anyone else to touch the doll. And she said to me, but Mom, it makes me so afraid. And it was just this beautiful moment where I so could feel her, and I remember being there and being that way. And I'm so thankful that I've grown through that as I've matured into adulthood, finally. And so I talked to her a bit more about it and said, this is good practice because you need to do this a lot in life. You have to stick up for what you want, or you're going to get walked all over. Other people will take advantage of you because they've got their own desires and wants and needs. So it was such a good teaching moment, and I thought it was really congruent with this writing and synchronistic that I had already picked this writing out to read, and that unfolded over the last day. So anyways, thank you for being here with me today. I wanted to just share that I am out on my second mountain bike ride after having broken my leg last March, about 5 months ago, and I had a rod hammered in my tibia and a bunch of other titanium installed in my leg. So I wanted to just share my excitement about that. So hope you have a beautiful day.